They thought kicking a black girl's canine at a gas station was just a joke, proof that stupidity really does travel in groups. But the second her dog hit the concrete, the air shifted, and those boys had no idea they'd just declared war on the wrong family. Because Zuri isn't just any girl, she's the daughter of a counterterrorism agent who doesn't shout, he strategizes. And while the bullies laughed, he was already on his way, bringing a level of justice they were never prepared for. The late afternoon sun burned across the concrete of Brentwood gas stop, turning the wide station lot into a glowing mirror of heat. Zuri knelt beside Shadow, her Belgian Malinois K9 partner, brushing his coat in smooth, careful strokes while he lay relaxed at her feet. It was one of those rare, quiet moments after school, just her, the dog she trusted more than most people, and the soft hum of gas pumps filling the background. Shadow nudged her elbow with his nose, playful, warm, unaware that the peace around them was nothing more than the calm before a storm. That storm arrived in the form of 3 Letterman jackets. Blake, Connor, and Reed moved across the concrete like they owned it, the self-appointed kings of Brentwood High. Loud, laughing at something that probably wasn't funny to anyone but them. Their bright orange jackets glowed like warning lights against the dull gray of the station, and the moment Blake spotted Zuri, his grin widened with an ugliness that had become far too familiar. Well, he called out, loud enough for people across the lot to turn. Look who's playing dog groomer today. Zuri stiffened but didn't look up. She'd learned long ago that acknowledging them only fed their appetite. Connor snorted. She's probably brushing it because it's the only thing that doesn't run away from her, Reed added. Yeah, except maybe her daddy. Oh wait, he's never home, right? Zuri's jaw clenched. She kept brushing, steady and precise. Shadow lifted his head slightly, sensing the shift in her breathing. Blake stepped closer, boots scraping against the concrete. Hey, he said, leaning over them. I'm talking to you. Zuri finally looked up. Leave us alone. Blake smirked, delighted by her pushback. Us? She said, us, he mocked, turning theatrically to his friends. She really thinks this mutt counts as company. He's not a mutt, Zuri said sharply. Connor bent down just enough to shove Shadow's hind leg with his shoe. He looks like one, might smell like one too. Shadow growled low, just one quiet rumble in his throat, but that was enough to electrify the air. Blake's eyes lit up at the sound. Oh, it growls. What are you gonna do, dog? Bite me? You and your little owner here think you're tough? Zuri placed a hand on Shadow's neck. Don't touch him. Blake's grin shifted into something colder, something that said he'd been waiting for that exact line. Or what? He asked softly. Zuri stayed silent. Silence was supposed to be safe. But today, safety wasn't an option. Blake straightened, stretched his leg back, and before Zuri could even inhale, his foot shot forward in a brutal, full-force kick. The impact slammed into Shadow's ribs with a sickening thud. The dog yelped a sharp, broken cry that cut straight through the air before collapsing onto his side. Zuri's scream tore out of her throat before she could stop it. Shadow! Several people at the gas pumps turned sharply. A mother grabbing snacks for her kids froze mid-step. A man filling his tank muttered something under his breath, but didn't move. Everyone watched, but no one intervened. Shadow tried to lift his head. Trembling, Blake laughed. Oh, relax. It's just a dog. Just a dog. Just a girl. Just the kind of cruelty people like him never expected consequences for. Reed stepped forward, phone already raised. Guys, look! Look at this! He zoomed in on Zuri, on Shadow writhing on the ground. This is gold. A black girl and her limp little dog. Oh my God, this is gonna blow up. The red light blinked. He was live streaming. Stop! Zuri cried, reaching for Shadow again, her hands shaking as she tried to check his breathing, his eyes, anything to reassure her that he wasn't dying on the concrete. Shadow, look at me, baby, please, look at me. The dog let out a faint whimper. His chest heaved unevenly. Reed's camera followed her movements like a predator stalking prey. Get closer, Blake, he said with a laugh. Kick it again. Make him yelp for the viewers. Even Blake blinked at that. Dude, nah. One's enough. Oh, come on, Connor teased, nudging him. Don't chicken out now. Zuri spun around. Don't touch him again. Her voice cracked with terror and rage. But Blake only shrugged. What's she gonna do? Shadow tried to push himself upright but collapsed again, paw trembling, breath shallow. Zuri's pulse hammered in her ears. Everything inside her screamed to run, but she wouldn't leave him. Why are you doing this? She whispered. Blake tilted his head, as if considering the question. Because you're easy. Because it's fun. Then he added, voice dripping with venom. Because nobody cares what happens to you or your dog, Reed whooped. Yes, say that again for the live stream. People kept watching. Nobody stopped them. Zuri swallowed hard, her throat burning. She pulled Shadow closer, shielding him with her body. You're pathetic, Connor taunted. But this time Zuri didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her pocket with trembling fingers, pulled out her phone and dialed. Blake snorted. What, you calling the animal shelter? Connor added. Or maybe your mom? Oh wait, don't have one. Reed swung the camera to capture her face. Guys, she's crying. But something in Zuri's expression made him falter. She wasn't crying anymore. She wasn't shaking either. She was terrified, yes. But beneath the fear was something else, something they had never seen from her before. Desperation edged with fury. The line connected. A low, steady voice answered, Zuri? Are you okay? She inhaled shakily. Dad, Shadow's hurt? There was a pause on the other line, a long one. Then her father's voice dropped an octave, cold, clipped, controlled, but carrying a lethal edge that could cut steel. Tell me exactly where you are. Before Zuri could reply, Reed shoved his phone toward her again. Wait, did she say Dad? Let the viewers see your daddy come save you. Connor laughed. Like that's ever happening. Zuri ignored them. Brentwood gas stop, she whispered into the phone. Dad, please hurry. Her voice cracked. Shadow let out another weak, broken cry. Blake rolled his eyes. Oh my God, it's not dying. Zuri didn't look at him. She didn't have to. Her father heard the cry through the phone. His tone shifted instantly. I'm on my way. Do not move from there. The call ended. Zuri dropped the phone onto the concrete, clutching Shadow with both arms, as if she could physically protect him from everything that had already happened. Reed zoomed in again. Guys, get ready. This is about to get even funnier. But for the first time, something flickered in Blake's eyes. Uncertainty. What did she tell him? He asked quietly. Connor shrugged. Who cares? It's just her dad. Reed laughed. Yeah, what's he gonna do? None of them knew who they had just provoked. None of them understood the level of danger they had unlocked. But they were about to. This was only the spark, and the wildfire was already on its way. The sound of Reed's live stream echoed across the gas station like a flare, shot into the sky loud enough, fast enough, and messy enough to attract trouble from miles away. Notifications pinged non-stop from his phone. Comments exploded across the screen, half laughing, half asking what the dog had done to deserve it, as if cruelty needed a reason. Reed laughed proudly. Dude, we're at 300 viewers already. This is insane. Connor leaned over his shoulder, squinting. Read the comments, man. What are they saying? Reed smirked. Mostly asking if the dog is dead yet. Blake's grin sharpened. Let's give them a show then. Zuri stiffened, shielding Shadow with her body as the dog whimpered against her chest. The concrete beneath him stained darker with each trembling breath he took. She could feel his pulse fluttering like a failing heartbeat against her palm. Panic clawed at her throat, but she forced herself to breathe. Stop filming, she whispered. Reed zoomed in, ignoring her. Nah. Everyone wants to see what happens next. He wasn't wrong. The first wave of students showed up barely 3 minutes after the live stream started. Kids in backpacks jogging across the station, some laughing, some confused, some filming before they even understood what they were filming. Within moments, the gas station, once just a bland strip of concrete and pumps, had become a stage. A stage for humiliation. A stage for racism. A stage for violence dressed as entertainment. Jenna was one of the first to arrive, breathless and anxious. She pushed past a knot of students, her eyes widening when she saw Zuri kneeling on the ground. "Oh my God! Zuri? What happened?" Zuri didn't look up. "They hurt him," she said, her voice barely audible. "They kicked Shadow." Jenna gasped. "Blake? What the hell is wrong with you?" Blake shrugged, unbothered. "Relax, it's just a dog," Connor chimed in, "and she's just, well, you know." He eyed Zuri with that smugness, that familiar toxic blend of prejudice and cowardice that always hid behind smiles. Reed tilted his phone toward Jenna. "Hey, Jenna, say something to the viewers." "Turn that off," Jenna snapped. "This isn't funny." Reed rolled his eyes. "Everything's funny with the right lighting." More students crowded in, phones held high like torches in a ritual that had lost its meaning. The comments on Reed's live stream scrolled rapidly. "Kick it again. LOL, this is wild. Who's the black girl? Is the dog actually dying?" Zuri felt her stomach twist. These weren't just witnesses, they were an audience, and Blake performed better with an audience. He swaggered toward her. "Hey, Zuri, why don't you cry a little louder for the cameras? The viewers love drama." Jenna shoved him. "Back off," Blake laughed. "Or what? You gonna cry too?" Jenna didn't answer, but the fury in her eyes said everything. Milo arrived. Next, quiet, observant, always the one who noticed details others overlooked. He pushed his glasses up and scanned the scene. "Is that Shadow?" he asked, horrified. Zuri nodded, swallowing hard. "They kicked him." Milo crouched beside her, careful not to touch Shadow. "Let me see his collar." "No, don't move him." Zuri cried, panicked. "I'm not," Milo assured quickly. "I just need to check something." He leaned in, squinting at the thick leather collar, the metal tag glinting under the sun. When his eyes focused, his entire face shifted from shock to disbelief to dread. "Oh my God," he whispered. "No way, no way." Blake snorted. "What now, nerd?" Milo slowly looked up, voice trembling. "This dog, Shadow, he's not just any dog. He's a federal K9. Reed paused mid-laugh. "What?" Milo pointed at the tag. "Federal K9 unit. He's a certified working dog for a federal agency. This isn't just animal cruelty, you guys just committed a federal offense." For the first time since arriving, silence fell over the crowd. A heavy, suffocating silence. Blake blinked, confused. "You're lying." Milo shook his head. "No, I'm not. Anyone can see the emblem. Look." Dozens of phones zoomed in. Gasps rippled through the students. "Holy crap. Wait, can they go to jail for that? Is this real?" "No way they're that stupid." Connor stammered. "It's just a tag could be fake." "No," Milo said. "It's real. My brother works with K9 units. I know that emblem anywhere." Reed, suddenly pale, lowered his phone an inch. "Dude, we need to delete the live stream." But Blake shot him a glare. "Don't delete anything. If it's real, then deleting the video makes us look guilty." "You are guilty," Jenna snapped. Zuri didn't say anything. Her entire world had narrowed to Shadow's shallow breaths, each one more fragile than the last. But the shift in the crowd's energy, fear replacing laughter, registered somewhere deep inside her. A federal K9, her father's dog, her father's responsibility, her father's rage. "No," she whispered, not to the crowd, not to Blake, but to Shadow. "Stay with me, please, stay with me." Shadow's paw twitched weakly. Zuri's vision blurred. Jenna touched her shoulder gently. "Zuri, call your dad back. Tell him what's happening." Zuri nodded shakily. Her hands trembled so badly she nearly dropped her phone. She opened her messages, hit the call icon, and heard his voice go straight to voicemail. Her father wasn't answering. He was already on his way. Her breath hitched as the tone beeped. "Hey, Dad," she began, voice cracking. "Shadow's getting worse. I don't think he can stand. Please hurry." Her throat tightened mid-sentence. She pressed a hand over her mouth, trying not to sob. "I'm scared," she whispered into the voicemail. "Please come." She ended the message, her pulse thundering in her ears. Behind her, Blake muttered, "This is getting blown out of proportion." Jenna spun on him. "You don't get it, Blake. You didn't just hurt her dog, you hurt a federal K-9. Reed whispered, panicked, "Dude, what if her dad is like an actual federal agent?" Blake scoffed, but the edge of doubt in his voice betrayed him. "She's lying." But even he didn't sound convinced. The crowd shifted uneasily. Students whispered to one another while filming everything, feeding the digital wildfire that had already leapt beyond their control. Zuri stroked Shadow's head gently. "Dad's coming," she whispered to him. "Hold on." Shadow let out a faint whine, the kind that crushed a heart, and the kind that would push her father over the edge when he heard it. A federal K-9 had been attacked, and 3 reckless boys had just kicked law in the face without realizing it. This was no longer just bullying. This was a federal crime, and justice was already on the road, speeding toward Brentwood gas stop. This was only the beginning. The chaos of the gas station blurred into background noise as Zuri clutched her phone with trembling fingers. Students whispered. Blake argued with Connor. Reed kept glancing at his live stream, unsure whether to shut it down or keep it rolling. But Zuri heard none of it. All she heard was the ringing. 1 ring, 2, 3. Every second scraped against her nerves like broken glass. Shadow's breathing grew shallower. His paw twitched again, weaker this time. Zuri pressed her forehead to his, whispering, "Hold on, boy. Please, just hold on." On the 4th ring, someone picked up. "Zuri?" Her father's voice came through warm, steady, carrying that familiar softness he rarely showed anyone but her. "I'm still driving back from the base. What's wrong?" For a heartbeat, she nearly broke. "Dad," she whispered. Shadow whimpered, a thin, pained cry leaking through her speaker. Malik Ward went silent. Completely silent. It was the kind of silence that didn't just fill the space, it owned it. "Zuri," he repeated, but his voice shifted lower, sharper. "Tell me what happened." He can't stand." She stammered. "They kicked him, Dad. Blake kicked him. He knocked him down so hard, he hasn't gotten up." There was movement on the other end. A chair scraping. Footsteps. The sound of a switch being flicked. Shadow whined again. Malik inhaled sharply through his nose. Then Zuri heard laughter. Reed's voice. Loud, taunting, unmistakable. "Hey, she's crying again. Get this on camera. Her dog's dying or something." Another voice chimed, in Blake's smug tone dripping with cruelty. "If the mutt can't handle 1 kick, maybe it shouldn't be out here in public." Zuri didn't even know her phone could capture all of that so clearly. But it did, and so did her father. The temperature in the room on his end seemed to drop several degrees as he listened. Zuri could hear the change not through words, but through the controlled, lethal stillness in his breathing. "Are those the boys hurting Shadow?" Malik asked. "Yes," she whispered. They're still here. And you?" Malik's tone sharpened. "Are you hurt?" No, I'm okay. But Dad," she swallowed hard. "Shadow's not." Malik exhaled slowly, a calm, measured release of air that sounded nothing like calmness. It sounded like a man locking his emotions behind a steel door so something far more dangerous could emerge. "Listen to me, Zuri," he said quietly. Too quietly. "I want you to stay exactly where you are. Do not try to move him." "I won't," she said, tears burning behind her eyes. She could hear faint background noises on his end, multiple keyboards, shifting screens, a low hum of machinery. Malik was no longer sitting in a car. He was not on the road. He was somewhere with access. Somewhere with authority. Somewhere where a single command could move entire operations. "Shadow's breathing is irregular," Zuri said, voice trembling. "I don't know what to do. He's shaking, Dad. I'm scared." Malik didn't raise his voice. He didn't panic. He didn't ask unnecessary questions. What he did next was far worse. He switched personas. 1 second. Zuri was talking to her father, the man who patched her scraped knees, taught her how to tie fishing knots, and left encouraging notes in her backpack every Monday morning. The next second, she was speaking to Agent Ward, the federal counterterrorism officer capable of dismantling extremist cells with nothing more than a headset and a quiet command. "Zuri," he said, and this time his voice carried the weight of command briefings, tactical urgency, and controlled rage. "Tell me your exact location." She blinked. What? Your location?" he repeated. "Precise. Landmarks. People around you. I need details." Zuri startled at the shift. "Brentwood, gas stop. Near the car wash entrance. The crowd is growing." "Good girl," he said softly, but the softness didn't warm her. It sharpened instead, like he was slotting each piece of information into an invisible map. She heard more clicking in the background, fast, rhythmic. Systems coming online. "Dad, what are you doing?" she whispered. "Finding you." Zuri froze. On the other end of the call, Malik Ward stood inside a secure tactical operations room, one reserved for high-level surveillance coordination. Monitors illuminated his face with cold blue light. A dozen live feeds rotated through his screens, traffic cams, city surveillance, departmental channels. He typed with surgical precision, pulling up the city grid. "Brentwood gas stop," he repeated under his breath. "Sector 12, camera node. A4. A screen blinked, adjusted, sharpened, and the gas station appeared. Not perfectly, but clearly enough to identify cars, movement, the forming crowd. Malik narrowed his eyes, scanning for his daughter. "Zuri," he said, tension coiling beneath every syllable. "Do not hang up." Zuri's voice quivered. "I won't." Shadow whimpered beside her. Malik's jaw clenched so hard she could hear his teeth grind. "Is that him breathing?" "Yes." He closed his eyes briefly. Her father loved Shadow. That dog had saved his life twice in the field. The bond between them was deeper than most people ever understood. And now he was listening to Shadow die in real time because of a group of teenagers who thought they were invincible. When Malik opened his eyes again, the softness from before was gone, all gone. His expression was now forged from something colder, more lethal, the same expression he used when prepping takedowns of violent extremist cells. "Zuri," he said quietly, "listen to me very carefully." "Okay," she whispered. "I'm coming to you. Nobody, do you hear me? Nobody will lay a hand on you or that dog again." A shudder ran through her chest. "Dad, please hurry." "I am." He paused, then added, with chilling calm, "They will regret touching what is mine." Zuri's breath caught. She wasn't used to hearing that tone. The crowd around her continued buzzing, phones raised, gossip swirling like vultures. Blake smirked at Connor, nudging him and whispering something she couldn't hear. Reed angled his phone for a better shot, but Zuri barely noticed. "Dad?" she whispered again. "Shadow's not getting up." On his end, Malik stood abruptly, chair sliding back with force. Every agent in the operations room turned toward him as he marched across the floor, grabbing his dark vest and badge from a hook. "Sir?" one analyst asked cautiously. "New assignment?" Malik didn't break stride. "Personal." He slipped the badge into his pocket, buttoned the vest over his crisp shirt, and grabbed his keys. But before he left, he turned to two junior officers near the door. "Bring the car around." "Yes, sir," they answered immediately. Malik paused, adjusting the collar of his vest, eyes burning with purpose. "My daughter is in danger," he said flatly, "and I'm done sitting behind a desk." He pushed open the door, the weight of a father and a federal agent merging into one unstoppable force. "Get the car," he repeated, voice like steel. "My little girl needs me." And with that, he moved calm, focused, and deadly toward the scene that would change everything. A normal father would be furious. A counterterrorism agent would turn that fury into a mission. This mission had already begun. The crowd at Brentwood gas stop had doubled within minutes. Students lined the concrete like spectators gathering for a street performance. Phones held high, faces lit by a toxic mixture of curiosity and excitement. Comments from Reed's live stream flooded the air, echoing between the gas pumps like digital insults rendered physical. "Kick it again. Make the dog yelp. Where's her daddy now? Stupid black mutt and its stupid owner." Zuri felt every word like a lash. Shadow trembled beneath her, his breaths jagged, shallow. She pressed a hand against his side, feeling the uneven rhythm. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Don't leave me." Blake stepped forward, rolling his neck as if preparing for a performance. "All right," he announced loudly, facing the crowd. "Show's not over yet." The audience cheered lightly, not quite sure what was coming next, but hungry for spectacle. Connor smirked and jabbed a finger at Zuri. "Get up." She shook her head. "No." Reed swung his phone closer, capturing her from an uncomfortably intimate angle. "Come on, Zuri. Give the viewers something good. Cry a little. Beg a little." Jenna cut in, voice sharp. "Back off. Haven't you done enough?" Blake laughed. "Enough? We're just getting started." He crouched down next to Zuri, invading her space, his breath sour against her cheek. "Here's how this works," he said. "You apologize properly and we let you take your whatever this is." He gestured at Shadow and leave. Zuri blinked in disbelief. "Apologize? For what?" "For mouthing off," Connor replied. "For acting like you're better than us. For thinking someone like you can talk back. Someone like you." The phrase hit her like a punch to the ribs. Zuri kept her voice steady. "I'm not apologizing to you." Blake's smile widened. "Then get on your knees." A ripple moved through the crowd. Half gasps, half snickers. Milo stepped in front of Zuri, fists clenched. "No way. She's not doing that." Blake didn't even look at him. "Move, nerd. Leave her alone," Milo snapped. Blake finally turned toward him, eyes narrowing. "You want to protect her? Cute." Reed kept filming, voice dripping with mockery. "Dude, Milo's defending her like he thinks he's gonna be the hero of this live stream." Jenna grabbed Milo's arm, pulling him back before Blake could swing. "Milo, don't." He shook her off. "No one else is helping." The truth of that statement sliced through the crowd. Not one adult had stepped in. Not one stranger had intervened. The spectacle was too fascinating, too entertaining for them to move. Blake shoved Milo back a step. "Stay out of this. Last warning." Zuri moved between them, voice trembling but firm. "Stop it. Please, don't hurt him." Blake pointed at her, then at the ground. "Then get on your knees." "No," Zuri whispered. Connor leaned in, sneering. "Come on, do it for the live stream." Zuri's stomach churned. The humiliation was unbearable, but she refused to break. Jenna stepped beside her. "Zuri doesn't owe you anything." Reed tilted the camera toward Jenna. "Tell that to the viewers. They think she should kneel." Zuri swallowed hard, fury mixing with helplessness. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. She wanted to protect Shadow, but she couldn't do any of those things. Blake grew impatient. "Fine. If you won't kneel, maybe your dog will." Zuri's breath froze. Blake lifted his foot and drew it back. Shadow whimpered. Zuri screamed, "No!" The crowd burst into chaotic noise. "Whoa! He's gonna do it again. Kick the dog." "Dude, this is messed up." "Shut up and film!" Blake grinned, basking in the attention. "Relax, Zuri," he taunted. "It's just a dog. And you need to be—" But, before he could finish, a wave of outrage crashed through the crowd. A student shouted, "Are you serious? Don't touch the dog again." Another yelled, "Dude, stop, it's a federal K-9. That's a Matago." A third voice added, "You're going to jail if you do that." Phones angled sharply toward Blake now. The atmosphere shifted, curiosity turning into disgust, excitement warping into alarm. Blake hesitated. Just a flicker, just long enough to reveal fear beneath his bravado. Connor hissed, "Dude, don't listen to them. Just do it." Reed whispered urgently, "Blake, don't. They're all filming." And Milo's video blew up over 1,000 shares in 10 minutes. Blake's confidence cracked, but barely. He tightened his jaw, forcing a laugh to hide the uncertainty. "Relax, I'm just messing around." He lifted his foot higher, aimed directly at Shadow's ribs. The crowd erupted with shouts. "Stop! Leave the dog alone. What is wrong with you? This is on camera, bro." Zuri grabbed Blake's leg with both hands. "Don't touch him!" she screamed. Her voice wasn't meek. It wasn't broken. It was raw, powerful, filled with a fury that silenced even the loudest onlookers. For a split second, Blake froze, startled by the sudden force. Then he wrenched his leg away. "Get off me!" Zuri stumbled back, nearly falling over Shadow's body. Blake sneered. "Fine. You want to protect him so badly? Go ahead. But remember you chose this." Jenna knelt beside Zuri, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "It's okay," she whispered. "He didn't hit him. You stopped him." But Zuri didn't feel victorious. She felt like the world was collapsing around her. Shadow's breathing worsened. His chest rose unevenly. His eyes fluttered open, then shut again. Zuri's voice broke. "Shadow, please." The crowd's yelling faded into background noise. Blake looked shaken, now less confident, more cornered. Connor hovered behind him, unsure whether to follow or flee. Reed lowered his phone slightly, realizing the situation had turned from funny to something far darker. And then, a new sound sliced through the chaos. A deep, rumbling engine. A police cruiser. The sirens were off, but the authority in its presence rippled through the air. Students turned toward the entrance of the lot as the vehicle rolled in, dust scattering beneath its tires. Officer Hemsworth's car. Jenna exhaled in relief. Finally, someone to stop this. Zuri, Milo. Even Connor seemed oddly relieved, but Blake smirked. "Relax, we know him." The cruiser rolled to a stop. Officer Hemsworth stepped out, broad-shouldered, uniform crisp, sunglasses hiding his eyes. Jenna pointed at Blake. "Officer! They assaulted her dog. You need to—" But Hemsworth didn't look at Zuri. He didn't look at Shadow. He didn't look at the trembling girl covered in dust and tears. He walked straight past them, past Zuri, past the injured federal K-9, past the witnesses, and stopped directly in front of Blake, Connor, and Reed. "Boys," Hemsworth said, adjusting his belt. "You okay?" Blake exhaled in relief. "Yeah, officer. We're good." Zuri felt her stomach drop. Jenna's jaw unhinged. "You're kidding me." Officer Hemsworth turned slightly, just enough to glance at Zuri for a fraction of a second. Then he ignored her. "The boys called in a disturbance," he said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Said someone was causing trouble." Milo's face went white. "What?" "That's not," but Hemsworth raised a hand to silence him. "Step aside," he ordered. He wasn't talking to Blake. He was talking to Zuri. The gas station fell into stunned silence. One more kick, and Zuri's fist tightened so sharply her nails cut into her palms. This wasn't just cruelty anymore. It was corruption, and justice was nowhere near the scene. Yet, the patrol car's lights flashed, red and blue across the concrete, splashing the gas station in violent colors that made everything feel sharper, colder, wrong. Students turned, expecting justice to finally arrive, expecting someone in authority to shut down the cruelty unfolding before their eyes. Officer Hemsworth stepped out with an air of confidence that bordered on arrogance. He adjusted his sunglasses even though the sun was already dipping, a gesture meant to project authority rather than necessity. Zuri lifted her head, tears streaking her face, hope swelling in her chest. "Officer, please, he hurt my dog. Shadow can't breathe." Hemsworth held up a hand, silencing her before she could finish. "Ma'am," he said, tone clipped and dismissive, "you need to calm down." "Ma'am." He didn't call Blake sir. He didn't call Connor or Reed boys, but he called Zuri ma'am, in that tone, the one that wasn't respect, but condescension. Blake took a half step forward, hands raised innocently. "Officer Hemsworth, it's fine. We were just messing around." "She's overreacting." "Messing around?" Zuri echoed, disbelief ripping through her voice. "He kicked him. Enough!" Hemsworth snapped. His attention slid toward Blake and the boys. "You three okay? Nobody hurt?" His tone softened noticeably, almost friendly. Reed nodded quickly. "We're fine, officer. Thanks for coming." Students in the crowd exchanged looks. Murmurs rippled through them, confusion turning into unease. Hemsworth finally turned to Zuri, but his expression held no concern, only irritation. What exactly is the problem here? He asked, clearly uninterested in the answer. Zuri pointed at Shadow, who lay trembling, breaths shallow. He kicked my dog. Shadow is dying. Look at him, please. Hemsworth glanced down, barely sparing the injured K9 more than a second. It's an animal, he said bluntly. Dogs handle roughhousing better than kids. It'll be fine. Jenna gasped. Roughhousing? Milo stepped forward. Officer, with respect, that's a federal K9. Hemsworth raised a hand again. I didn't ask for commentary. Blake smirked. Told you she was being dramatic. The officer's gaze sharpened, but on Zuri. Now, I'm hearing you were causing a disturbance. Screaming. Getting physical. Zuri blinked. Physical? I only grabbed Blake's leg because he was about to kick Shadow again. Hemsworth's tone darkened. So you admit to putting your hands on him? He was hurting my dog, she cried. What was I supposed to do? Just let him? Connor chimed in quickly. Officer! She started yelling and making a scene. We were just standing here, Jenna snapped. Liar! Hemsworth ignored her completely. He stepped closer to Zuri, hand hovering near his handcuffs. If you don't calm down, I'll have to detain you for disorderly conduct. The crowd went silent. Disorderly conduct, for protecting her dying dog. Zuri felt the world tilt. You're going to arrest me? I'm the one who Hemsworth barked. Quiet. Zuri flinched. Blake's shoulders relaxed, confidence returning. He leaned toward Connor and whispered, Told you he'd take care of it. But the whisper was loud enough that several people heard, including the cameras. Reed lifted his phone again, filming. Not the dog. Not Zuri. He filmed Hemsworth. Jenna rounded on Hemsworth, fury shaking her voice. Officer, are you even listening? They live-streamed themselves kicking a federal K9. They bragged about it. Hemsworth dismissed her with a wave. Teenagers exaggerate. It's just online drama. A murmur of outrage swept through the crowd. Students exchanged looks, horrified, disgusted. He's protecting them. This is messed up. He didn't even check the dog. Isn't he supposed to help people? What kind of cop ignores a hurt dog? And a federal one? Hemsworth pointed at Zuri again. You. Step away from the animal and stand up, now. Zuri's hands tightened protectively around Shadow. No. The word came out small but powerful, shaking in fear, yet anchored in something unbreakable. Hemsworth sighed dramatically. If you continue resisting— Oh my God, Milo said loudly. Is anyone else seeing this? He's blaming the victim. Reed's camera pivoted finally toward the real story unfolding. Not the dog, not the bullies, but the cop who chose the wrong side. Students began filming from every angle, capturing Hemsworth's posture, his tone, his refusal to help. One girl shouted, Officer, do your job. Another added, Why aren't you stopping them? Hemsworth glared at the crowd. Everyone here needs to step back, or I will start issuing citations. Actually, a boy's voice called from the back. We're live streaming this. Thousands of people are watching. Hemsworth froze. Reed's live stream counter had passed 4,000 viewers, and comments flooded in. This cop is corrupt. Why is he protecting those boys? Arrest the bullies, not the girl. This is racism plain as day. Record everything. Hemsworth's jaw tightened. He turned back to Blake, voice low. I told you boys don't start trouble online. Blake swallowed. We didn't. Well, I mean, Reed was filming. I said no trouble, Hemsworth repeated sharply. His meaning was clear. He wasn't concerned with justice. He was concerned with exposure. But it was too late. Milo lifted his own phone and stepped forward. Hey, Officer Hemsworth. Quick question. Why didn't you check the injured federal K9? Why did you go straight to the bullies? Hemsworth sputtered. That is not. This situation is under control by threatening the victim? Jenna shouted. The officer pointed at her. Watch your mouth. But she didn't back down. Or what? You'll arrest me too? A chorus of voices rose behind her. Yeah. Arrest all of us. Do it. We're all witnesses. It was turning. The energy, the crowd, The narrative, everything was turning against Hemsworth in real time. And then, Reed's phone buzzed violently. He glanced down and his face drained of color. "Dude," he whispered, "it's everywhere. The clip of the cop taking our side, it's already viral on TikTok. My live stream's blowing up." Blake paled. "What clip?" Reed swallowed. "All of it." Hemsworth's head snapped toward him. "Turn the camera off." Reed didn't move. "Turn it off now," Hemsworth roared. Gasps erupted. Students filmed harder. Did he just yell at a kid on camera? Bro, he's done. Someone tag the news. Tag the federal authorities, this involves a K9. Hemsworth realized the hole he'd dug, but there was no climbing out now. "Everyone put your phones away," he demanded, voice shaking with forced authority. No one did. Phones stayed up. The truth stayed live. Zuri held Shadow's head, tears streaking her cheeks, heart pounding. She didn't know what justice would look like, but she knew she had witnesses now. She wasn't alone. The world was watching, and in that instant, a deep, low engine growled from the road, a black SUV. Sleek, fast, coming in hot. Jenna whispered, "Who is that?" Zuri knew. She felt it in her bones. Her father had arrived. The black SUV tore into the Brentwood gas stop like a bullet fired with intent. Fast, precise, unapologetic, its tires screeched across the concrete as it halted at the entrance. The engine growling like something alive and dangerous. All heads snapped toward it. The crowd parted instinctively. Not from fear, from instinct. Something in the way the vehicle moved told them. This was not someone to stand in the way of. The driver's door swung open. Out stepped Malik Ward. Not Officer Ward. Not Agent Ward. Not the man who spent his days quietly behind screens dismantling threats before they erupted. This was the version of him Zuri rarely saw. The version the country relied on. The version global terrorists feared. He moved with a deadly calm, every step measured, every breath controlled, every line in his face carved with purpose. His eyes swept the scene. The crowd, the phones, the bullies, Officer Hemsworth, his daughter. And then they landed on Shadow. The dog lay motionless on the concrete, chest rising only slightly, fur matted from the kick. Malik froze mid-step. Every muscle in his body tightened. His jaw clenched so hard the tendons bulged. His hands curled into fists before he forced them open again. The change in him was visible, an atmospheric shift so palpable that even those who didn't know him felt it in their skin. Zuri stood and ran to him. "Dad!" He caught her instantly, pulling her close with one arm, while his eyes never left Shadow. "Are you hurt?" His voice was low, calm, but underneath it simmered something violent. "No," she whispered, trembling. "But Shadow, he's not, he won't get up." "I know." His grip tightened around her. "I hear him." Then he released her gently and walked to Shadow, one slow step at a time, as if each movement was restraining the fury in his veins. Blake whispered to Connor, "That's her dad? He looks like an accountant." Connor snorted. "Yeah, a government dad. Bet he writes parking tickets." Reed zoomed his phone in. "This is great footage. Look at him, he's shaking." "What a joke." Hemsworth stepped forward, clearing his throat. "Sir, you need to step back. This is an ongoing situation." Malik didn't even acknowledge him. He knelt beside Shadow, brushing a gentle hand over the dog's neck. "Shadow," he murmured, "I'm here." Shadow tried to lift his head, whimpered softly, and collapsed again. Malik exhaled slowly, a controlled release of rage. Then he stood, and when he faced the crowd, he was someone else entirely. The calm father vanished. In his place stood a hunter. "Who did this?" Malik asked, not loudly, but with a razor-sharp clarity that sliced through the air. No one answered, but every phone recorded. Malik's eyes locked onto Blake first. "You." He didn't point. He didn't move. He simply stared. Blake scoffed, though his voice wavered. "I mean, we were just messing around." "He kicked the dog," Jenna shouted. "We all saw it," Milo added. "Officer Hemsworth refused to help." Hemsworth stiffened. "That's not accurate. I was assessing the—" "That's enough," Malik's voice cut through him like a blade. Hemsworth stopped talking. Blake rolled his eyes. Whatever. You can't talk to him like that. He's a police officer. Yes, Malik said quietly. A police officer who ignored a federal crime. Connor blinked. Federal? Dude. What? Malik reached into his coat pocket. The air stilled. The sound of shuffling feet faded. Even the students holding their phones lowered them slightly. Malik pulled out a black leather badge holder and snapped it open with a practiced flick of his wrist. A gold emblem glinted under the gas station lights. Malik Ward, he said. Federal Counterterrorism Division. Silence. Complete, stunned silence. Several students gasped. Jenna's hand flew to her mouth. Milo mouthed, "Holy crap!" Even Reed lowered his phone. But Blake? Blake laughed. You expect us to believe that? He snorted. Dude, that's probably from Amazon. Connor chimed in. Yeah, anyone can buy a fake badge. This is hilarious. Reed turned his phone back on. Guys, this man is pretending to be FBI. This is gold. Malik didn't flinch. This badge is not fake. Oh yeah? Blake smirked. Prove it. Malik leaned down, lifted Shadow's collar, and pressed his thumb against a small metal tag embedded beneath the leather. A faint beep sounded. Then he spoke a string of numbers. K9 Unit Delta 4 7 Echo 19. The tag blinked red, then green, activating with a soft chime. Everyone froze. Even Hemsworth. That, Malik said quietly, is a federal identification confirmation code. Something you cannot buy on Amazon. Phones shot back up. The crowd erupted. Holy crap! He's real! A federal agent? Dude, you're dead. They kicked a federal dog? Connor stumbled backward. Blake. Dude, what did we do? Blake's face drained of color, but pride or stupidity kept him upright. You're bluffing. Malik stepped closer, casting a shadow over the boys. If I were bluffing, you would still be safe. The words landed like a blow. Reed's live stream count skyrocketed. Hemsworth finally intervened, stepping between Malik and the boys. Sir, you can't threaten minors. Malik looked at him with chilling calm. Threatening them would imply I need to. I don't. Hemsworth swallowed hard. This is all getting out of hand, he muttered. Let's just calm down. No, Malik said. You will write a report. Now. Hemsworth stiffened. There's nothing to report. They were just, do not, Malik said, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Finish that sentence. Phones zoomed in. Students held their breath. I am ordering you, Malik continued, as a federal agent, to file an assault report against these minors for attacking a federal K9 unit. Hemsworth hesitated. Then, no. The crowd exploded in disbelief. Did he just refuse? He's protecting the bullies. Oh my God, he's done. This is corruption live. Malik stared at Hemsworth in a cold, unreadable silence, one that made even the officer step back. Then Malik reached for his phone. Hemsworth panicked. Sir, what are you doing? Malik didn't look at him. I'm calling in, he said. Calling in what? Blake whispered, voice cracking. Malik lifted the phone to his ear. Rapid Response Unit, he said quietly into the receiver. I need a team at Brentwood Gas Stop. Code. Federal K9 Assault. Officer refusal to comply. The effect was immediate. Students exclaimed. The bullies paled. Hemsworth froze. And Malik? He finally let the mask slip, just enough to show the fury beneath. They had kicked his daughter's dog. They had humiliated his child. And they had dared to disrespect federal law. They had no idea they had stepped on the tripwire of a man trained to dismantle terrorist networks. This was no longer a father responding. This was a weapon aiming. They didn't. No, they had just triggered a counterterrorism agent's wrath. The shaking hum of anticipation spread through the crowd long before the vehicles arrived. Students stood still, breath caught in their throats. Phones raised like an army of silent reporters, waiting for the moment the world shifted. And then, it happened. 3 black federal SUVs shot down the main road, like guided missiles, no sirens, no hesitation, just speed, purpose, and the unmistakable authority of people who don't need noise to announce power. The tires screeched as all 3 vehicles skidded to a coordinated stop at the entrance of the gas station. The doors burst open in unison. A dozen federal agents stepped out. Not local police, not mall security, not bluff or bravado. Real federal officers. Bulletproof vests, sidearms, communication earpieces, federal seals on their jackets. The crowd erupted in gasps and exclamations. "Oh my God, those are federal agents. Holy crap! This is real. They're here for the boys. Will I doing too? No way. They're actually getting arrested." Blake, Connor, and Reed froze mid-breath. Fear, raw and unfiltered, shot across their faces for the first time since this began. Officer Hemsworth stepped forward, panic creeping into his voice. "Agents! There's no need for," he didn't get to finish. The lead agent strode past him without acknowledgement, heading straight toward Malik Ward with purposeful strides. "Agent Ward, sir, we received your code. Rapid response team. Reporting." The shift in atmosphere was instant. Students stared, phones captured every second. And the bullies? Their world cracked open. Malik nodded once. Calm, controlled, deadly. "Secure the 3 minors. Confirm the assault and secure the injured K9. The lead agent turned, voice booming across the lot. "All individuals involved in the assault, stand still and keep your hands visible." Blake instinctively took a step back. Wait. Hold on, this is insane." 2 agents flanked him immediately. "Hands where we can see them." Connor raised his hands, trembling, his face pale. "We didn't do anything." "This is a misunderstanding," Reed stuttered. I was just filming. I didn't touch the dog." The nearest agent snatched Reed's phone from his hand with surgical efficiency. "Device confiscated for evidence." "My phone!" Reed yelped. The agent didn't blink. "You live-streamed a federal crime. The phone is evidence." Reed nearly collapsed. Blake glared at Malik, rage and fear clashing in his expression. "You can't do this. We're just kids. This is excessive." Malik stepped forward, voice low and precise. "You assaulted a federal K9 unit, a dog assigned to Homeland Security. You obstructed aid. You harassed a minor. And you publicly recorded the crime." His eyes hardened. "You're lucky they're not cuffing you face down." Blake's lip trembled, the bravado from before melting like wax under heat. "This isn't schoolyard bullying anymore," Malik added. "This is federal." A collective gasp rippled through the students. For the first time, Blake understood this was not a joke. The lead agent spoke into a radio. 3 suspects located. Initiating direct detainment protocol. Stand by for verification. 2 more agents swept toward Shadow, kneeling gently beside the dog. "Pulse weak," one murmured. "Likely rib fractures," another added. "Prepare K9 stretcher." Zuri knelt next to them, her hand still on Shadow's fur. Her voice cracked. "Will he be okay?" One agent looked at Malik, then back at her. "We'll do everything we can. He's tough." Malik knelt briefly beside Zuri, his hand on her shoulder. "They'll take care of him." "I'm here now," she nodded shakily. Meanwhile, Hemsworth shoved forward, voice cracking under pressure. "You can't just come here and override my jurisdiction." The lead agent turned sharply. "Officer Hemsworth, step aside." "I will not step aside," Hemsworth shouted, face reddening. "These boys didn't commit a federal crime, They assaulted a registered federal K9, the agent snapped. Their actions were documented from multiple angles, acknowledged by a supervising federal agent, and live-streamed to thousands. He stepped closer. "Officer, do you have any idea how many laws were broken here?" Hemsworth opened his mouth, then closed it. The crowd whispered. "He tried to cover it up. He protected them. He's in trouble. So much trouble." Hemsworth forced a brittle smile. "Look, maybe we all just calm down talk." "We will," the lead agent said evenly. In the official misconduct inquiry you'll be part of. The color drained from Hemsworth's face. Students cheered under their breath. Justice not complete, not official yet, but finally taking shape began to feel tangible. Across the lot, Blake watched Shadow being lifted onto the K9 stretcher, guilt inching across his features. I didn't mean to hurt him," he muttered weakly. One agent shot him a cold look. "Your intent doesn't erase the damage." Connor clutched his head. "Man, this can't be happening," Reed whimpered. "My parents are going to kill me." But the crowd wasn't sympathetic. This time, phones weren't mocking. They were documenting. Show the whole world. Let the news see it. They deserve this. 3 agents formed a perimeter around the boys. "Hands out," one ordered. Blake hesitated. An agent stepped closer. "Do not make us repeat ourselves." Blake lifted his hands. Zip ties clicked around all 3 wrists, a sound louder than all their protests. Justice beginning. Milo exhaled shakily. This is insane." Jenna crossed her arms. "They wanted a show. Now they're in it." The agents checked the boys for weapons. None. Then began escorting them away from the crowd. Students recorded every step, each boy, now a symbol of consequences they'd never imagined possible. Blake stumbled slightly. The lead agent steadied him, not gently. "Stand upright," he ordered. "Face forward," and Blake did. For once, the self-proclaimed king of Brentwood High followed orders. Because fear had replaced arrogance. Because consequences had replaced cruelty. Because, for the first time in his life, Blake realized this wasn't a game. As the SUV's back doors opened, ready to detain the boys, murmurs from the crowd grew louder. "Wait, there's more! Something else is happening. It's about the live stream." Reed's confiscated phone buzzed uncontrollably inside the agent's gloved hand. Notification after notification. Milo grabbed Jenna's arm. "You're not going to believe this. Someone slowed down the live stream. And they found something." Jenna's eyes widened. "What?" He swallowed. "A detail no one noticed before. The drama wasn't over. Not even close." The crowd roared because the live stream held a secret ready to explode. The chaos of the arrests hadn't even settled when a new wave of noise rippled through the crowd. Gasps, shouted whispers, the frantic tapping of screens. Students who had been filming now turned their phones inward, replaying, pausing, enlarging every pixel of Reed's viral video. Look at this angle. No, go back 5 seconds. Slow it down slower. Ranzavas. To me. Oh my God. Is that?" Jenna stood in the middle of the crowd, holding her phone like it was made of glass and fire at the same time. Milo hovered beside her, his eyes trained on the tiny screen. "Frame by frame," Jenna murmured, dragging her thumb across the timeline with surgical precision. The gas station noise faded behind them. The students circled close, their faces illuminated by the cold blue glow of the playback. The video showed Blake raising his leg, then bringing it down. But slow motion revealed a detail missed by the chaos of real time. A detail that turned shock into horror. Blake didn't kick Shadow in the ribs. He kicked Shadow in the head, and not gently, not accidentally, but with full force, heel first, aimed with cruel intention, enough to make the dog's skull jerk violently sideways. Jenna's voice cracked. "Oh my God, that could have killed him." Milo's hands trembled. "That did kill federal dogs on duty before. A blow like that? It's not just animal cruelty. It's assault on a federal officer," Jenna whispered. The words hung in the air like smoke, because everyone knew it was true. A federal K9 isn't just a dog. It is classified as a federal officer under U.S. law. Assaulting one is equivalent to assaulting a human federal agent, and Blake didn't just assault, he targeted. Someone from the crowd shouted, "Send it to the news." Another yelled, "Tag the FBI." End quote. Phones lit up everywhere as students shared the slow-motion clip, blasting it across every platform. TikTok, Instagram, Discord chats, school group messages. Within minutes, the video wasn't just viral at Brentwood High, it was exploding nationwide. Zuri watched this unfold through burning eyes. She knelt next to Shadow, one hand stroking his fur, the other gripping her chest as though trying to hold herself together. She already knew Blake was cruel. She didn't know he was monstrous. Shadow whimpered again, weak and broken. Malik, standing nearby, heard the noise with his ears and with his soul. He didn't move at first. He didn't speak. But his stillness was dangerous, too controlled, too quiet. Jenna and Milo pushed through the circle of students, racing toward him. "Agent Ward," Jenna called breathlessly. "You need to see this. It's bad. It's much worse than we thought." Malik turned slowly, eyes sharp. "Show me." Jenna held out her phone and played the footage. Normal speed first. Malik's face didn't change. Then slow motion. Blake's heel struck Shadow's head with brutal force. Shadow's neck snapped sideways with a jolt that made several students look away. Malik's face didn't soften. It didn't twist in shock. It didn't even show rage in the normal sense. It hardened, all the way down to the bone. The kind of hardening that comes from witnessing horrors and surviving them. The kind of hardening that turns a man into something precise, focused, unstoppable. A federal agent on mission. "That's a head strike," Milo said quietly. "A severe one. If Shadow loses consciousness or can't breathe, this isn't just abuse. It's attempted—" "I know what it is," Malik said, voice razor-thin. The students fell silent. Even the federal agents surrounding the boys paused as word rippled through them. "Did you see the video?" "Yeah, HQ is going to flip. He kicked a federal K-9 in the head. That's prison time. Long prison time." One agent approached Malik. "Sir, do you want us to escalate charges?" Malik didn't answer immediately. He stared at the video again at the moment Blake's heel collided with Shadow's skull. He remembered the sound Shadow made through the phone. The sound that sliced through his composure. The sound that ignited every protective instinct he possessed. Then Malik looked up. "Yes," he said. "Escalate." The agent nodded and stepped away, already speaking into his radio. Reed, still detained nearby, stammered, I didn't know it was that bad. I didn't know." Malik interrupted. "You didn't care." Reed shut his mouth. Blake, cuffed and pale, tried to twist around to see the video. "I didn't mean to hit his head. I swear I just—" "You just what?" Jenna snapped. "Just wanted views? Just wanted to make someone suffer?" Connor trembled. "We didn't know he was federal." Milo shot back. "That's the part you choose to care about? That he's federal? Not that he's alive?" Blake shuddered, swallowing what remained of his ego. "Is he gonna die?" Malik turned his head slowly. His eyes, dark, sharp, merciless, met Blake's. "You're lucky," Malik said quietly, "that he's still breathing." Blake looked sick. But Malik wasn't done. He lifted his phone, only this time it wasn't to call. It was because it buzzed with a message, a secure federal channel. The screen lit with 4 words, "Proceed, highest protocol level." Malik's jaw tightened. Jenna, watching from over his shoulder, whispered, "Is that from the FBI?" Malik lowered the phone. "Yes." Milo took a step back. "What does highest protocol even mean?" "It means," Malik said, voice steady, "that this offense is no longer local. It is no longer juvenile. It is now classified at the strictest federal level." Jenna's eyes widened. "So Blake's getting what? Charged like an adult?" Malik didn't answer. He didn't need to. Everyone knew. The crowd felt it. The agents felt it. And Blake? For the first time, tears filled his eyes. "Please," he whispered. "I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know." Malik stepped closer, not threatening, not loud, not angry, just unwavering. "You didn't need to know the law," he said softly. "You only needed to know the difference between cruelty and decency." Blake broke. Completely. But justice didn't pause for tears. Malik turned to the nearest agent. "Proceed." "Yes, sir," the agent replied. The live streams continued. The students recorded every second. The country was already watching. And somewhere inside the FBI's headquarters, someone was preparing the next step. Because Blake hadn't just kicked a dog. He had attacked a federal officer. and that meant the United States government was now involved. One kick equals federal prosecution, and this was only the beginning. Malik's phone buzzed again. A final message. Full authorization. Handle as necessary. He slipped the phone away. The storm was coming, and Malik was its center. Treat this as highest priority, he said to his team. The agent snapped to attention. Because when the FBI says highest protocol, there is no turning back. The air at Brentwood gas stop thickened into something electric, heavy, charged, impossible to ignore. Students held their breath, filming every second, as the Federal Rapid Response Team tightened formation around the three boys who had spent the last hour believing they were untouchable. Connor was the first to crack. He collapsed to his knees before anyone even touched him. Please, please, I didn't mean to. This was all Blake's idea. Two agents moved in swiftly, hands firm but controlled. Hands behind your back, one ordered. Connor obeyed instantly, sobbing as the zip ties cinched around his wrists. Reed froze beside him, blinking rapidly as if hoping the scene might blur into a nightmare he could wake from. This can't be happening, he whispered. We're minors. You can't. A federal agent cut him off. You live-streamed a federal assault, the agent said. You transmitted evidence of a crime across state lines. You documented obstruction. Age does not erase responsibility. Reed's knees buckled. The agent grabbed his arm and turned him around, locking his wrists with practiced ease. Reed whimpered. My dad's gonna kill me, the agent replied. Better your father than federal court, the crowd murmured, shaken but unable to look away. Holy crap, they're actually doing it. This is real federal arrest protocol. They're finished. Only Blake remained standing rigid, sweating, trying desperately to hold on to whatever scraps of arrogance he had left. His eyes darted toward Zuri, toward Shadow, toward Malik, toward the crowd. Everywhere he looked, his power evaporated. An agent stepped forward. Turn around. Blake didn't move. The agent repeated, Turn around. Hands behind your back. Blake clenched his fists. No, you can't. This is insane. You can't arrest me for a stupid dog. Malik stepped toward him, eyes cold as winter steel. That stupid dog saved more lives than you will ever comprehend. Blake swallowed hard, but held his ground. I'm not turning around. The lead agent nodded once. Take him. Two agents moved in from the sides. Blake panicked. No, no, don't touch me, he shouted, trying to pull free. He swung his arm wildly, striking one of the agents across the chest. The gas station erupted in screams. Did he just hit a federal agent? Oh my God. He's dead. He's literally dead. Before Blake could swing again, one agent grabbed his wrist, twisting it behind his back while the other swept his legs out from under him. Blake hit the ground face first with a thud that echoed across the concrete. His scream tore through the air. Ow. Stop. That hurt. You resisted and assaulted a federal officer, the agent said sharply. Stay still. Zip ties locked around his wrists with a loud click. For the first time, Blake looked like a child, terrified, confused, far smaller than the persona he'd worn all day. The crowd wasn't sympathetic. Good. He deserves it. After what he did to Shadow? Not enough. But one person wasn't celebrating. Officer Hemsworth. He stormed forward, voice rising. Hold on. Hold on. You can't do this. They're just boys. They're residents of my district. I didn't authorize any of this. A federal agent stepped into his path. Officer Hemsworth, this is federal jurisdiction now. Step back. Hemsworth's face flushed deep red. The hell it is. This is my station, my authority. You don't get to march in here and… Step back, the agent repeated. Firmer. Hemsworth shoved him. The crowd gasped. Malik's head snapped toward the officer. The agent who had been shoved didn't so much as blink. Officer Hemsworth, you are obstructing federal detainment protocol. Step back immediately. Hemsworth's voice cracked with desperation. This is out of hand. They're teens, they didn't know the dog was federal. They didn't mean… They meant the cruelty, Malik said sharply, stepping forward. They meant the humiliation. They meant the violence. Ignorance of federal designation does not excuse attempted murder of a working K-9. Hemsworth threw his arms up. "This is ridiculous! You're overreacting!" It was just Malik stepped closer, his presence cutting through the space like a blade. "Finish that sentence. Say just a dog. I want to hear you say it." Hemsworth's mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked around, realizing every camera was pointed at him, every student, every agent. Dozens of live streams. The world was watching him lose control. He stepped back, breathing hard. The lead agent addressed him with icy calm. "Officer Hemsworth, your refusal to act, your dismissal of evidence, and your interference in detainment will all be included in the federal misconduct report." Hemsworth's face drained of color. "And for the record," the agent continued, "you are dangerously close to obstructing justice and impeding a federal operation. Step back now." This time, Hemsworth obeyed. He retreated, defeated, shoulders sagging, as students recorded every second of the downfall he brought on himself. Blake, Connor, and Reed knelt on the concrete, hands bound, faces pale, their bravado in ruins. A student whispered, "This is the first time I've ever seen Blake look scared." Another replied, "This is the first time Blake's ever faced consequences." But Zuri wasn't looking at them. She was staring at Shadow. The federal K-9 was growing weaker, his breathing irregular, his body trembling more violently than before. One agent approached Malik. "Sir, the medical unit is en route, but he's unstable. Moving him carefully could help, but there's a risk." "I'll carry him," Malik said immediately. The agents hesitated. "Sir, protocol." "Override protocol," Malik said, kneeling beside Shadow. His voice softened for the first time since arriving, a full contrast to the steel he had shown the Bullies and Hemsworth. "He'll respond better to someone he trusts." Together, they lifted Shadow with steady hands and placed him onto the K-9 emergency stretcher. Malik supported the dog's head, whispering, "I'm here. Stay with me." Zuri walked beside them, tears streaking down her cheeks. "Dad, is he going to?" "I don't know," Malik whispered, "but we'll fight for him." They reached the K-9 emergency vehicle. Malik climbed inside with Shadow, still cradling the dog's head. Just as the doors were about to close, a K-9 medic stepped in. "Agent Ward, we ran a quick preliminary assessment." Malik's stomach tightened. The medic continued, voice heavy. "It's not good. The head trauma is severe. There may be internal bleeding. We need to get him to the Federal Veterinary Hospital immediately." Zuri felt the ground tilt beneath her feet. Shadow's chest rose, shuddered, and fell again, weaker than ever. Malik looked at the medic, jaw clenched. "Do whatever it takes." The medic nodded. As the vehicle doors shut, Malik met Zuri's eyes. For the first time today, she saw fear in her father's. Real fear. The kind no agent training could suppress. The kind only a parent could feel. For the first time, justice belonged to Zuri, but it might have come too late for Shadow. The federal K-9 veterinary unit smelled of antiseptic, cold metal, and urgency. The halls were quiet in a way that felt reverent, as though every sound risked disturbing the lives being fought for behind each door. Zuri sat on a narrow bench outside the examination room, her hands clasped together so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Malik stood beside her, not pacing, he never paced, but standing perfectly still, hands behind his back, shoulders squared, the posture of a man trying to anchor himself, while the world threatened to shift under his feet. Shadow's muffled whimpers came through the door. Each one stabbed Zuri's chest like a blade. A red light above the door flicked off. The door opened. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the federal K-9 medical specialist, stepped out wearing a navy scrub top embroidered with the Homeland Security emblem. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried the weight of the report she was about to deliver. Malik straightened immediately. "Doctor. Status." Zuri stood too, her breath trembling. Dr. Vasquez exhaled. "Shadow is stable for now, but the trauma is significant." Zuri's voice cracked. "Is he going to die?" Vasquez softened her tone. "We're doing everything we can, but you need to understand the severity of what was done to him." She held up a tablet displaying the scans. "This," she said, pointing to the first image, "is where the heel of the assailant struck his head. The blow caused acute muscular damage along his neck." Zuri winced. Malik didn't move. "And here, Doctor." Vasquez swiped to the next scan. "You can see the fracture along the scapula. His shoulder blade was partially cracked by the force of the kick." Zuri's knees buckled. Malik caught her, steadying her with one arm. "Doctor," Vasquez continued, her voice clinical but compassionate, "these injuries are consistent with targeted violence, not accidental harm. This wasn't a light hit. It was deliberate." Zuri wiped tears from her cheeks. "He didn't deserve this. He's never hurt anyone." "No," Vasquez agreed. "He didn't, and the law recognizes that." She turned toward Malik. "Agent Ward, due to Shadow's federal K-9 status, the assault qualifies under Title 18, Section 1361, destruction or injury of government property used for national security." Zuri's breath stopped. Malik's jaw tightened. Meaning, Dr. Vasquez said, "this is a federal felony." Zuri blinked, her mind struggling to process the scale of it. "Doctor," Vasquez continued, "any intentional harm against a federal working dog is legally treated the same as harm against a federal officer." Zuri gasped. "So Blake and the others," Vasquez confirmed, "are now federal defendants. Their ages don't shield them from federal prosecution. The evidence is overwhelming." Her next words struck the room like a hammer. "Those boys became federal felons today." Zuri pressed her hands to her mouth. Dr. Vasquez looked at Malik. "We'll keep Shadow for the next 72 hours. He needs monitoring for internal bleeding and neurological damage. We won't know the full prognosis until then." Malik nodded a firm, silent acknowledgement of both the medical and legal war now unfolding. Zuri whispered, "Can we see him?" Vasquez hesitated. Briefly, she led them into the dim recovery room. Shadow lay on a padded table, IV fluids attached to his leg, a soft brace supporting his neck. His breathing was shallow but steadier than before. Zuri approached him slowly, afraid of hurting him even with her presence. "Shadow, I'm here," she whispered, touching his paw gently. His eyes fluttered open. "Just a little, just enough." Zuri broke into tears. Malik placed a hand over Shadow's side, his expression cracking with emotion he tried desperately to hide. "You're strong," he murmured. "Stronger than the ones who did this. Stay with us." Shadow closed his eyes again. Zuri looked up at her father. "What happens now?" Malik's expression hardened again, steel returning to his frame like a weapon being reassembled. "Now," he said, "the legal process begins. The Department of Justice has already been notified. They won't treat this lightly." Zuri sniffed. "They're really going to be charged? As adults? Federal crimes don't disappear because someone is 17, Malik answered. "Especially not when they target a K-9 assigned to national security." "Doctor," Vasquez added, "the live stream, the slow-motion footage, the eyewitnesses, every piece supports prosecution. The assault on Shadow is federal property damage with national security implications." Zuri clenched her fists. "Good." Malik looked at her with a gentler gaze. "Justice is coming, but it will be a long process." Dr. Vasquez stepped aside. "Agent Ward, I should warn you this case is already picking up traction." "What do you mean?" Malik asked. Vasquez nodded toward a small TV, mounted in the corner of the hallway. The volume was muted, but the headline was unmistakable. "Teens accused of assaulting federal K-9 investigation underway." Zuri inhaled sharply. The story was breaking. "Fast, Doctor," Vasquez added. "Reporters have been calling for statements. Local stations, national outlets. People are furious." As if on cue, Malik's phone buzzed violently. A message flashed across the screen from the FBI case coordinator. "Proceed at highest legal escalation. Media involved. Parents of suspects en route to facility." Zuri stiffened. "Their parents?" Malik slipped the phone into his pocket, expression darkening. Yes, he said. They're coming. And the next storm was already forming. The bullies just became federal defendants at the age of 17, and their parents were about to learn what that meant. The parking lot outside the Brentwood police substation buzzed with tension. Reporters swarmed the sidewalk, cameras rolling, microphones raised, hoping to catch anything, any word, any expression from the families of the newly detained teens. Inside the cordoned-off area, 3 SUVs screeched to a stop. Out stepped the parents of Blake, Connor, and Reed, furious, loud, and already blaming everyone except their sons. Blake's father, a broad man with a red face and an expensive suit strained at the buttons, marched toward the entrance. "Where is the federal agent in charge?" he barked. "I want to talk to whatever clown thinks my boy committed a federal crime." Connor's mother, heels clicking like gunshots on the pavement, fanned herself dramatically. "This is a misunderstanding. Connor wouldn't hurt a fly. This is harassment." Reed's parents arrived last, tense, pale, exchanging frantic whispers as the cameras captured every second. Malik Ward stood at the far end of the lot, posture still as stone. He waited, not hiding, not confronting, just waiting. Because he didn't need to raise his voice to win a battle. Presence alone was enough. Blake's father spotted him. "There," he snarled, storming toward Malik. You're the one who called federal agents on 3 minors? Do you have any idea what you've done?" Malik looked at him with an unreadable calm. "Yes, I protected my daughter and upheld federal law." "That dog attacked my son," Blake's father spat. "Shadow was lying down when Blake kicked him," Malik replied. "Twice, and the second time was aimed at his head." Blake's father bristled. "That's your version. My son told me she provoked him." Connor's mother chimed in, her voice shrill. "And that girl, what's her name? Zuri? She made a spectacle. She screamed, insulted them, and now she wants to destroy their futures," Reed's mother added, pointing an accusing finger at Malik. "We won't allow it." Blake's father jabbed a finger at Malik's chest. "We're filing charges. Against you, for abuse of federal power, and against your daughter, for slander and emotional distress." A few reporters surged forward, microphones raised. "Are you suing the federal agent? Do you believe your sons are innocent? Do you deny the K9 was injured?" Blake's father straightened, sensing an opportunity to reshape the narrative. "Yes, we are suing," he declared. This man overreacted. He weaponized federal resources over a schoolyard disagreement. Connor's mother nodded vigorously. "We will not let our boys be treated like criminals." That was when a calm voice cut through the noise. "You might want to reconsider that." Everyone turned. A tall woman in a tailored charcoal suit approached, holding a binder embossed with a gold Department of Justice seal. Her hair was tied neatly back. Her heels clicked with purpose, not vanity. She stopped beside Malik. "Attorney Naomi Brooks," she said, flashing her federal credentials. "Lead counsel assigned to this case." Blake's father laughed derisively. "Good. Maybe you can explain to this man that federal force is not a toy." She raised a hand, and the entire parking lot fell silent. In one smooth motion, she opened her binder, revealing printed screenshots, timestamps, and federal evidence tags. "This," she said, holding up a still image, "is a frame from the live stream where your son kicks a federal K9 in the head." The color drained from Blake's parents' faces. "This angle," she continued, flipping the page, "is from a security camera at the gas station. It corroborates the live stream." Connor's mother stuttered. "That can't my son, he didn't." Brooks didn't pause. She turned the page again. "This is audio captured from the victim's phone call to her father. Your sons can be heard laughing as the K9 cries out in pain." Reed's parents went silent. Reporters furiously scribbled. Parents exchanged panicked looks. Brooks continued, her tone cutting but professional. "Additionally, we have verified that the dog in question, Shadow, is a federally registered K9 assigned to Homeland Security operations. His injuries include a fractured scapula and severe neck trauma." She closed the binder with a decisive snap. "Given the overwhelming evidence," she said, Filing a countersuit for slander or abuse of power would be unwise. Blake's father swallowed hard. This is outrageous. They're children. Brooks nodded. They are. And they committed an adult federal offense. The law is clear. She stepped closer to him, voice low but firm. Assault on a federal officer, whether human or K9, is a felony. Mandatory prison time, and because it was recorded, shared, and occurred on federal designated property, the case is airtight. Connor's mother's voice shrank to a whisper. So they're really defendants? Brooks nodded. Yes, all three of them. The parents' deflated anger turning to disbelief. Disbelief turning to dread. One reporter asked quietly, Miss Brooks, who is at fault here? Brooks glanced at Malik, then at the cluster of parents. Her answer was simple. No one wins when the truth is this clear. Silence blanketed the parking lot. Car engines hummed. Reporters lowered their microphones. Parents looked down at the asphalt, unable to form words. And above them all, the truth hung like a verdict. Their sons had done this. Not Zuri, not Malik, not the federal agents. Their sons. Brooks turned toward the station. Agent Ward, we should prepare for tomorrow's arraignment. Of course, Malik said. But as they walked away, Brooks added one final detail. The school has been notified. Their internal investigation begins tonight. Zuri wouldn't face this alone. The entire institution was about to step in, and the fallout had only just begun. Brentwood High had never felt so silent. The early morning sun cast long shadows across the school's front facade as students clustered outside, whispering, checking their phones, refreshing news feeds. Every hallway, every classroom, every inbox buzzed with one topic: the federal K9 assault case. Inside the main administrative building, the tension was thicker still. The school board's conference room, usually used for mundane budget meetings, now felt like a courtroom. At the long oak table sat the principal, Miss Harrington, 3 board members, the school counselor, and the district superintendent, who had driven in at dawn. Zuri, Jenna, and Milo sat together on one side of the room, their expressions a mix of fatigue and defiance. A projector screen glowed at the front. The video was paused, frozen on the frame where Blake's heel connected with Shadow's head. No one spoke. Finally, Principal Harrington exhaled shakily. I can't believe what I'm seeing. Jenna folded her arms. Then keep watching. The superintendent nodded to the IT specialist. Roll the footage. The video played in slow motion. Blake's kick, Shadow's collapse, Reed filming and laughing, Connor shouting insults, Zuri screaming for them to stop. The room filled with horrified gasps. When the video ended, no one moved for several seconds. Then the superintendent turned to Principal Harrington. How did this behavior go unnoticed? How were there no disciplinary records? Miss Harrington swallowed. We received complaints, but none were substantiated. Officer Hemsworth often handled student disputes. He reported these boys as misunderstood or provoked. By whom? Jenna snapped. By black students, miss? Harrington looked down, ashamed. The superintendent's tone chilled. We now have confirmation from multiple students that these boys repeatedly bullied minority classmates. Zuri clenched her fists in her lap. Milo leaned forward. They didn't just bully, he said. They targeted. They harassed. They used slurs, and every time someone reported it, Hemsworth shut it down. Jenna added, he threatened students with detention or made them delete their videos. A board member flipped through a binder the district had compiled overnight. We have corroborating emails, written testimonies, and deleted chat screenshots recovered from student devices. This isn't new behavior. Zuri's eyes burned. So they got away with it because Hemsworth protected them. Principal Harrington's voice shook. It appears so. The superintendent nodded grimly. This is no longer a matter of school discipline. This is a systemic failure. He turned to Zuri. Miss Ward, I am deeply sorry. We failed to protect you. We failed to protect other students, and we allowed a toxic environment to grow. Zuri lowered her gaze, not trusting her voice. The IT specialist cleared his throat. There's more. He clicked to another file on the screen, a folder of recovered video clips, hidden recordings, messages. One clip showed Blake shoving a freshman into lockers. Another showed Connor mocking a Latina student's accent. A third showed Reed filming as they turned over a black student's lunch tray. The board members looked physically ill. Miss Harrington placed a hand over her mouth. My God, Jenna shot her a bitter glance. Your security officer knew. He saw all of this. And buried it, Milo added, because those boys were his favorites. The superintendent straightened. Effective immediately, all 3 students are expelled pending federal proceedings. No one objected. Then he turned to Principal Harrington. And Officer Hemsworth? Jenna smiled coldly. He should be fired. The superintendent didn't argue. We have grounds for termination, but this goes beyond employment. His interference in student reports and his failure to act constitute neglect and obstruction, Milo added. He tried to arrest Zuri instead of the boys. The superintendent scribbled notes. That will also be included. Miss Harrington exhaled, exhausted. What happens next? Before the superintendent could answer, the conference room door opened. A staff runner stepped in, handing him a folded letter. It's from Agent Malik Ward. Hand delivered. Zuri sat up straight. The superintendent opened it and read silently. Then he lifted his head. Agent Ward has filed an official federal request for immediate suspension of Officer Hemsworth from all school duties pending investigation. Jenna grinned. Milo whispered, Yes. The superintendent turned to Miss Harrington. We will honor this request, effective right now. He signed the order on the spot. Zuri let out a long, shaky breath relief, mixed with the sting of everything she had endured. For the first time, Brentwood High acknowledged what had been happening. For the first time, adults listened. For the first time, truth outweighed excuses. The superintendent closed the folder. We must rebuild trust, and we start by dismantling every part of the system that allowed this. A heavy silence settled in the room. A network of hidden bullying, a system rooted in favoritism, racism, and silence had just been exposed. And the fallout was only beginning. A network of bullying has been exposed. The superintendent stood. Notify all faculty. A full internal investigation begins today. As Zuri rose to leave, Jenna squeezed her hand. Milo whispered, We did it. They can't hide anymore. But Zuri knew better. This wasn't victory. This was only phase 1. Because out there, beyond the school walls, a federal storm was still gathering, and Malik Ward had just fired the first shot. The local police department had never seen this much attention, not on a weekday morning, not on any morning. News vans lined the street in front of the station like a parade of consequences. Microphones were angled toward the entrance, reporters murmuring their rehearsed intros while camera crews scrambled for angles. Local officer under federal scrutiny. It stirred dime. New evidence reveals pattern of misconduct. Did Officer Hemsworth protect bullies? The headlines had detonated across the town overnight, and now everyone was watching. Inside the station, the air felt thick, as if justice itself had weight. Officer Hemsworth sat stiffly in a metal chair, jaw clenched, eyes darting between the clock and the door. He wore his uniform, but it suddenly looked too big on him, like armor that no longer belonged to the man inside it. The door opened. Malik Ward stepped in with the police chief, Captain Ramirez, a woman known for her uncompromising integrity. Hemsworth's face hardened. So this is it? A federal witch hunt? Captain Ramirez didn't sit. Officer Hemsworth, this is a disciplinary hearing, not a negotiation. Malik remained silent, his presence enough to shift the power in the room. Ramirez placed a stack of documents on the table. We've reviewed the federal evidence, as well as school reports, student statements, and internal records. Hemsworth scoffed. You mean the statements of a hysterical girl and her federal agent father? Malik's eyes snapped toward him, cold and unblinking. Her name is Zuri, and she is neither hysterical nor a liar." Hemsworth swallowed but didn't back down. Those boys were good kids. They didn't deserve to be treated like criminals. "You escalated a playground. A federal K-9 was assaulted," Malik said, voice low but sharp. "Your refusal to intervene resulted in a near-fatal injury. Your biases endangered my daughter and violated federal statutes." Ramirez opened the file. "We found that you dismissed or altered multiple bullying complaints involving the same students. You ignored video evidence. You intimidated students into deleting footage and discouraged them from reporting." Hemsworth's nostrils flared. "This town doesn't need federal interference. We handle our own." Malik stepped forward. "You didn't handle anything. You protected offenders because you liked them, because they looked like you, because they made you feel important." Hemsworth's face flushed red. "Don't you dare accuse me of bias?" Malik asked quietly. "Your actions speak for themselves." Ramirez tapped the table. "We have multiple documented instances of you failing to follow protocol, and in the gas station incident, you attempted to detain the victim instead of the perpetrator." Hemsworth's voice cracked. "She grabbed Blake's leg. That's physical assault." "She grabbed him to stop him from killing her dog," Malik countered. Ramirez raised her hand. "Enough. Officer Hemsworth, the community has lost confidence in your judgment. The federal case only amplifies the severity of your misconduct." She slid a single sheet of paper toward him. Hemsworth stared at it, refusing to touch it. Ramirez read aloud, "Effective immediately. Officer Jordan Hemsworth is suspended without pay, pending full investigation for misconduct, obstruction of justice, dereliction of duty, and endangerment of a minor." The words hung in the air like a slap. Hemsworth shot to his feet. "This is absurd. I've served this town for 20 years, and you're taking the word of a girl and her attack dog father?" Malik didn't move, he didn't need to. His voice alone struck harder than any physical blow. "I'm not an attack dog," Malik said quietly. "I'm a federal agent, and you tried to erase my child's suffering because you didn't see her as someone worth protecting." Hemsworth opened his mouth, but no sound came out. For the first time, he looked small. Ramirez stood. "Officer, hand over your badge and weapon." Hemsworth hesitated. Ramirez's voice hardened. "Do it. Now." Slowly, with trembling hands, Hemsworth removed his badge and placed it on the table. The metallic clink echoed through the room like a verdict. His gun followed. He looked at Malik, anger, humiliation, and something like fear swirling beneath his expression. "This isn't over," Hemsworth whispered. Malik stepped closer, his posture calm but his eyes blazing. "It is, and the next phase will take place in federal court, not in a room you can manipulate." Ramirez signaled an escort. 2 officers entered. Hemsworth stiffened as they approached. "You're making a mistake," he muttered. "No," Ramirez said. "You did." They escorted him out of the room. The moment the door closed, a hush settled. Not relief, not triumph. Something heavier. Something like the beginning of a long-awaited correction. Ramirez exhaled. "Agent Ward, I don't know how this town will react." Malik nodded. "With discomfort first, then accountability." Outside, the reporters erupted into a frenzy as Hemsworth was led out of the building. Inside, Malik stood alone for a moment, letting the weight of it sink in. A single kick at a gas station had sent justice rippling through an entire town, and the waves were still spreading. Captain Ramirez gathered the files. "The arraignment hearing for the boys is set for tomorrow. You'll want to prepare." Malik straightened, the steel returning to his voice. "I already am." The federal courthouse stood like a monument of stone and authority, tall, cold, and impossibly silent. News vans lined the entrance, reporters murmured. Cameras clicked. Everyone wanted to know what would happen to the 3 boys who had gone from schoolyard bullies to federal defendants overnight. But inside the courtroom, all that noise fell away. Here, every breath mattered. Zuri sat beside Malik at the plaintiff's table, her hands trembling slightly but her posture straight. She wore a simple navy dress, her hair tied back, and despite the weight of what she was about to do, her chin remained lifted. Across the aisle sat Blake, Connor, and Reed. Their wrists were free, but ankle monitors reminded everyone why they were here. None of them could look at her. Blake's eyes stayed glued to the floor. Connor fidgeted with his sleeves. Reed wiped his cheeks every few seconds, the reality sinking deeper with each passing moment. The courtroom murmured as the federal judge, Judge Eleanor Reeves, took her seat. All rise. Everyone stood. When the judge settled, her tone was steady, crisp, and absolute. Be seated. We are here today to review charges of federal assault on a working K-9 officer, obstruction of justice, harassment, and hate-based intimidation involving juveniles Blake Turner, Connor Hayes, and Reed Dalton. The boys flinched at each word. Judge Reeves turned to Zuri. Miss Ward, you may approach the stand. Zuri inhaled sharply. Malik squeezed her shoulder. You're ready, he whispered. Zuri nodded once and rose. Every step toward the witness stand felt heavier than the last, but not because she was afraid, because she was determined. She raised her hand, swore the oath, and took her seat. The courtroom leaned in. Federal Prosecutor Naomi Brooks stepped forward. Miss Ward, for the record, please state your name and age. Zuri Ward, she said softly. I'm 16. Brooks nodded. Zuri, can you describe what happened at Brentwood gas stop on the afternoon of the incident? Zuri paused only to gather a breath. Then she spoke. It started with them laughing, she said, her voice steady though her hands trembled. I was brushing Shadow, my dog, my partner, when Blake and his friends walked up. They made fun of me, called me names. They kicked dirt toward us. Blake winced. Connor lowered his head. Reed bit his lip hard enough to draw blood. Zuri continued, her voice gaining strength. At first I tried to ignore them. Shadow didn't react, he trusts people. But then Blake walked closer, and he kicked him. A collective gasp filled the room, even though everyone already knew. He kicked Shadow so hard he fell over. Shadow cried out and couldn't get up. Zuri's voice cracked. She swallowed and forced herself to keep going. I begged them to stop, but they laughed. Reed filmed it. Connor told him to kick Shadow again. Somewhere in the courtroom, a reporter scribbled furiously, but Judge Reeves remained still, watching Zuri with a gaze of unwavering attention. And then, Zuri said softly, Blake lifted his foot, and he kicked Shadow in the head. The silence that followed was suffocating. Blake covered his face with both hands. Connor's shoulders shook. Reed whispered, I'm sorry, though the words were barely audible. Brooks took a step toward the jury box. And what happened when Officer Hemsworth arrived? Zuri drew a breath that shook at the edges. He blamed me. Gasps rippled through the gallery. He told me I was the problem. He threatened to arrest me. He didn't check on Shadow. He didn't even look at him. He defended them. Judge Reeves's expression darkened. Miss Ward, did you fear for your safety? Zuri nodded. Yes, not because of the boys, but because the officer wasn't there to help me. She wiped her eyes quickly. I called my dad because I didn't know who else would listen. Brooks stepped closer. Zuri, what do you want this court to understand? Zuri lifted her chin, calm, resolute, powerful. That Shadow is not just a dog, she said. He served this country. He protected people he never even met, and they hurt him because they thought hurting me was funny. Her voice tightened, but did not break. I just want justice. For him, and for every kid who gets bullied and told to stay quiet. The courtroom was silent. Completely. Even the air refused to move. Judge Reeves leaned forward, her tone softer than before. Miss Ward, thank you. You may step down. Zuri stood. As she walked past the defendant's table, something unexpected happened. Blake lifted his head for the first time all morning. His eyes were red. His voice cracked with guilt he could no longer hide. Zuri, he whispered. I'm sorry. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. Her truth had already spoken. When she returned to the plaintiff's table, Malik placed an arm around her shoulders. You were extraordinary, he murmured. And she was. A 16-year-old girl had just brought an entire courtroom to silence. Judge Reeves cleared her throat, breaking the stillness. We will now proceed to sentencing recommendations. Everyone straightened. This was it, the moment justice would take shape. The judge lifted her gavel. The court will now prepare to issue its ruling. The courthouse steps were crowded press, students from Brentwood High, parents, strangers who had followed the story nationwide. Reporters whispered into microphones, waiting for the defendants to emerge. The heavy doors opened. Blake, Connor, and Reed stepped out with their lawyers, wrists free but futures forever marked. They looked smaller than they had inside the courtroom, stripped of arrogance, of entitlement, of the shield they once believed made them untouchable. Judge Reeves had been firm. 600 hours of federal community service, mandatory rehabilitation and anti-bias training, permanent federal juvenile record, and a 5-year ban from owning or interacting with animals. Their sentence wasn't prison, but it was life-changing. A federal offense at 17 does not disappear, and every camera caught the moment Blake whispered to the reporters, "I deserve this." The news exploded even before the boys reached the parking lot. But Zuri didn't watch them. She stood off to the side with Malik, her hands clenched against her chest, waiting for something far more important. A low-engine hum approached. A white federal K-9 medical van rolled into the lot. The air around them shifted, every conversation fading, every camera turning. The back doors opened, and Dr. Vasquez stepped out wearing a tired smile. "Zuri?" she called gently. "Come here." Zuri broke into a run. Malik followed, steady but tense, fear and hope colliding inside him. Then, a soft thud. A familiar paw touched the pavement. Shadow stepped down. Slowly, stiffly, carefully. But he stepped. His head was wrapped in a protective bandage, and his gait wasn't perfect, but his eyes were bright, alert, present, alive. Zuri gasped, so sharply she nearly fell forward. She dropped to her knees as Shadow limped toward her. "Shadow. Shadow, you're here. You're really here." Shadow pressed his nose into her shoulder, then nudged her cheek. Then he lifted his paw and placed it gently in her lap. Zuri let out a sob, this one of relief, not fear, and wrapped her arms around him. Shadow licked her hand, slow but determined, as if telling her, "I never left you." Malik stood over them, blinking hard as emotion cracked through the stoic mask he wore for work, for war, for survival. "He's still healing, Doctor," Vasquez said softly, "but he fought harder than we expected. Strong dog, stronger heart." Zuri looked up, tears streaking her face. "Thank you. Thank you for saving him." Vasquez shook her head. "He saved himself, and you gave him every reason to fight." Malik knelt beside them, placing one steady hand on Shadow's back. Shadow leaned into him with a soft grunt. "You did good," Malik murmured to both of them. "Both of you." The press noticed the reunion, and the chaos of the courthouse faded into a single, powerful moment. No one shouted questions. No one pushed. No one tried to monopolize the scene. They simply watched. Because this wasn't about scandal anymore. It was about healing. Jenna and Milo ran toward them, breathless and grinning. "Zuri! He's actually walking! Look at him!" Shadow wagged his tail weakly at the familiar voices. Zuri laughed through her tears. "He's strong. Stronger than any of us," Malik added quietly. "Stronger than the boys who tried to break him." Behind them, the 3 bullies were escorted into a waiting transport. None of them looked back. None of them dared. But as Blake stepped inside, he caught sight of Zuri hugging Shadow. And for the first time since the incident, he cried openly. The consequences had changed him, but Zuri did not spare him a thought. She didn't need to. Justice had spoken, the law had moved, and her focus was on the only thing that mattered. Shadow was alive. Dr. Vasquez approached Malik. "He'll need weeks of care, physical therapy, but if his progress continues, he could return to light-duty work." Zuri hugged Shadow tighter. "No," she whispered. "He doesn't have to go back. He's done enough. He can stay with us, right?" Malik softened. "If that's what you want? If that's what Shadow wants." Shadow nudged her chin, as if giving his approval. Zuri laughed again, lighter, freer. filled with something bright after so many days of fear. The cameras captured the moment. A girl, her father, and a dog who refused to give up. A reporter whispered into her mic. The nation watched cruelty unfold, and today it watches courage win. As the sun dipped behind the courthouse, Zuri stood with Shadow at her side, Malik's hand resting on her shoulder. A quiet strength radiated from them, undeniable, unbreakable. Because the truth was undeniable too, their cruelty ignited the strength of one girl, and the entire nation stood by her side. And from this day on, no one would ever silence her again. And just like that, the boys who thought they were untouchable learned what real consequences feel like. Zuri didn't have to raise her voice, truth did the talking, and justice carried the punch. Shadow stood back up, their father stood his ground, and the whole town was forced to confront the truth they had been avoiding for too long. But tell me this, if you were standing at that gas station, would you have recorded, stepped in, or should I turn my back and pretend I didn't see anything? If this story made your heart race or your blood boil, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any of the next stories of justice.